All right. How's everybody doing? You guys just give me a confirmation that you can hear me okay? Will you let me know that my audio is good to go? Let me know what you guys, if the audio is working. Can you guys hear me okay? Let me know. Oops. All right, audio working? Do we have audio? We can hear you. Pacific Wave Window Cleaning. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Good to go, my man. Audio is fine. Full whips. I appreciate you, my G. All right. Turn that. No, I can hear the audio, so we are good. Boom. All right. What's going on, everybody? How's the week going? Today's Tuesday. How's the start? Anybody have good news? Anything we can help with? What is the best investment to start within real estate market in Colorado? For me personally, I'm all in on housing. I really like residential. That's a range of things that could go from single family, could go condos, mobile homes, apartments. I personally do apartments. The reason why I like apartments is one, because it's valued based on a business, not based on a comp, the way homes is based. And two, it's a little bit easier to get It's a lot easier to get to scale. You know, to get to 10 homes in a portfolio, that's 10 different properties you have to negotiate 10 times, get lending 10, financing for 10 properties. With an apartment, you can just go buy a 10 unit and do it in one sweep. So I like that. I have a little skate brand right now. I started 2 years ago in Colombia. I'm living right now in New York. Brewer, how's it going? How's the business going? You guys struggling right now? You succeeding? What's going on? How can I improve my incomings? Okay, so that's one of the biggest things when it comes to business is getting people to know who you are. And so I would say you only have so many options, right? You have organic social, you have paid social, and then you have like conventional or legacy. So in the skate world, legacy is what? Thrasher. Are there any other magazines besides Thrasher? Are they the only ones? You have a magazine, and then you have basically social. So I would say get all over social, start creating content yourself, build out a team, have your team market what you're doing. That's going to get eyeballs on you. So the whole name of the game is letting people know who you are. If there's any events locally, like get over to them. Start like doing the grind work of meeting people, passing out flyers, passing out stickers. Make sure everyone in town knows who you are. Can you fix the Canadian housing crisis? I actually haven't been following the Canadian housing crisis. Are you guys in a housing crisis for the same reasons we are? And if you are, then yeah, I can tell you what I think needs to be done. I mean, it's pretty simple. If you want to stop the housing crisis or solve the housing crisis, you just have to add supply. It really is that simple. How do I get my doom scrolling under control? Ooh, that's a good one. Sane, I would say stop following people. Hit the unfollow. And if your feed is just shooting you content like that, I would, like on Instagram, you can click something and say not interested or don't show me stuff like this. Just start retraining the algorithm. But that's going to mean you can't like or comment or watch some of the doomsday stuff. All right. How can I buy a home in Ventura County making $60,000 a year? Kevin, right now, it's almost impossible. It's insanely brutal right now. And so I would say you've got to start stacking up a pretty sizable down payment, and then you're going to have to wait for interest rates to come down. Like interest rates are still, I think, too high for a lot of, as far as like the middle class goes, like interest rates are too high in a lot of markets to buy homes. So you're going to have to wait for interest rates to normalize. Start looking at first-time home buyer programs that will help with the down payment. But the challenge is the median home price in Ventura County is so high, And if you're talking about putting 3.5% down, you're not going to be able to pay the monthly. It's going to be too high. So you're going to have to probably save to get that down payment large enough to where you can afford the monthly. So let's hope interest rates go down without prices, climbing back up. Another option is you might have to buy a rental property in a different market so that you have ownership in real estate and just rent in California. That might be the play. Looking into purchasing a small home to have an Airbnb situation. Any advice on pros and cons? Deanna, yeah, Airbnb, you're going to get, there's a lot of things that you need to pay attention to right now. One, Airbnb is softening. So the demand today is not where it was 3 years ago. And so be mindful of that. I would say, depending on where you're going to do it, if you're going to do it in like an only tourist area, then, you're making a bet that the economy won't get so bad that people stop traveling and then there's no demand for your Airbnb. What I would prefer doing is find an area that you could turn it into a long-term rental if you had to. So that would be your plan B. And so before you're making the offer, I would run the numbers, look at what your expenses would be, what your debt service is, and see if you could cover that with a long-term tenant. And if you can, that's a good plan B in case Airbnb doesn't work out. All right. Let's see. Thoughts on Chino? You know what? I don't know the Chino market. So I've never looked at it to see how it would be from an investment standpoint. Just saying this like high level without doing a lot of research, I think it's easier to build in Chino and it's more affordable. So I think there's going to be more and more demand in areas like Chino because people are moving away from, these markets where you just can't buy and looking for an alternative. All right, price differ. I'm saving $3,000 a month right now. It's amazing. First time home buyer. What percentage should I put down? Looking for a $200,000 home locally when interest rates are right. Great question. Okay, so a first time home buying program, you're going to most likely be able to put down as little as 3.5%. So on a $200,000 home, that's not that much. Now, you have to remember that by putting little down, you're going to have a higher monthly payment. So considering that doesn't break the bank, that is not a bad strategy. So I would say if you want to save more so that you can bring that monthly down, do it. You'll have some PMI if it's less than 20%, but getting in the game, I don't think that's a bad plan to just put 3.5 to 5% down and get into the house. 63-year-old looking for the best way to take some equity out of my house with no payments. Okay, Briere, the only way you can take equity out of your house with no payments, well, you're going to have payments, I think, no matter what, right? If you do a cash out refi, it's going to be a refinance. So considering that you're having to refi into a higher interest and there's going to be potentially more debt, that would increase your monthly payments. If you took out a HELOC, you're going to have monthly payments. So I'm not sure there's a way for you to do it without having a monthly payment. 15th dimension. I was wondering, how do you differ from Pace Morby in terms of investment strategy? Okay, good question. So Pace does a lot of subject to type of financing, creative financing. So Pace's strategy is all about basically buying real estate properties and keeping the owner in like the first position of debt. And so you can play a scenario where you're buying real estate, not having to put any money down. And I believe, this might not be entirely true, but I believe Pace focuses on single family. For me, why my strategy is different, I'm on the commercial side. So I buy apartment buildings and I buy storage units. and we build them to like go more into what we're doing. And so, as creative as we can get is if we buy something, we may have the opportunity to keep the owner in the deal so that, we build it, they get to participate in the upside alongside of us. But because we're on the commercial side, the lending options are very different. And so it's very difficult to do what Pace does on the size and type of properties that I do. All right, let me get caught up. Sorry, I'm not answering questions fast enough here. I just turned 23 and I work a 9-to-5, but I want to build an investment portfolio and start generational wealth. Any pointers on where to start? Unhinged Gabe, yeah, I do. So where to start? 23 years old. So just so you know, you are so ahead of the curve. That is awesome. How you would start is you would start saving your money and start investing it. What most people are doing is they're maxing out their Roth IRA. If you work a 9-to-5, you're going to have most likely a 401k match program. And so there's a lot of thoughts on a 401k. I would say a Roth IRA is an easy one for long-term. Do the Roth IRA. That one I think is rad. You get more flexibility. All your gains are tax-free. The 401k, what the pushback is a few things. Number one, on the 401k, you are pushing your taxes out to an unknown date. And so you don't know what you're going to be taxed on when you have to start taking your minimum withdrawals. You may be taxed more in the future than you are today. So there's some unknown. It's not as flexible. You don't get as many options when investing in a 401k. And I mean, this is the case for both of the retirement plans, but any of the money that you're making is sitting there. It's not realized. So you're not really getting to financial freedom early by using a 401k. So what the big pushback would be is that a 401k was basically a financial tool created to benefit the pensions. The pros to it, if somebody's going to give you a match, right? If you have an employer that's like, you put $4,000 in, I'm putting $4,000 in for you. That's 100% guaranteed return. You can't get a guaranteed return anywhere else in any other investment. So that's pretty good. The other pro to it is you get to use your contribution as a deduction against your taxable income. So you get some benefits early. The unknown is the tax bill in the back end. So I think for a lot of people, it makes sense to do the up into the employer match and then hit the Roth IRA. If you're really trying to get to financial freedom early, for anyone who doesn't know what financial freedom means, it means that you have gotten to the point where your investments are bringing in enough income each month through interest or through cash flow that it's covering your expenses. And so there's a lot of people that are trying to get to financial freedom before the typical retirement age. People want to get there in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s. And so if that is your goal, you're most likely going to want to stay away from 401ks, because if those things are earning for you, you're not taking that money out. You're waiting until typical retirement age. So just keep that in mind. What I would say, if you really want to build generational wealth, start now, start investing, get to the point where you can, you're maxing out your Roth IRA, you're 23 years old. If you just max that thing out for like 8 years, you're going to be in such an awesome position when you're older. And then I think the other thing is like start looking into real estate. Once you could start investing in real estate or maybe alternatives in general. You've got private real estate, you got private credit, which means you basically become the bank on real estate, or you can do it on business. There's venture, there's tech, there's a lot of alternative investments out there. And the returns for the overall like alt side have been a lot stronger than the S&P 500. So I think those are great options as well. More than anything, you just got to get started though. And then, there's crypto. Like I own crypto. I think crypto is awesome. I think it's the future. I'm not a crypto bro though. So, the crypto that I've done really well in is the basic stuff. It's Bitcoin, it's Ethereum, Solana. Like I anytime I've invested in that, actually, I have done pretty good with Floki that I say it, which was a joke. Sometimes you do hit on these joke coins, but just be careful when you're talking about crypto. There's a lot of them that still have heavy risk. I've lost a lot of money in crypto betting on stupid coins. The ones that have done well are the standards. Where should I put money that I will use to pay taxes at the end of the year? High yield savings account, Jonah. Don't put it anywhere at great risk, or just start, like, are you 1099? And if you're 1099, I would recommend actually making quarterly payments. That's what I did. It really helped from like having to worry about that big bag at the end of the year. How do you make money while in college? Andrew, hard to make money while you're in college. I mean, really what you're talking about is just a paid internship or, a job that you're working while you're going to school. So I wouldn't worry about making a lot of money during college. I would just worry about learning skills that you can apply to making money when you're finished with it. I'm 23 years old, working 7 to 3, but it isn't my day job. This is from Little Thrasher. It isn't my dream job. I have $60,000 in my college account and want to buy a duplex to start my portfolio. Thoughts? Or what is your opinion? Thanks. I think that's a great idea. I would say if you can find something a little bit bigger than a duplex, if you can find a quad, that is amazing. That's where I would start. I would start looking at a FHA loan, which would be a low down payment. And if there's tenants in there, the tenant's income or the projected income can help you qualify for the loan. So that's where I would start. I would start by house hacking a quadplex if you can. Things to note, I would say, okay, there's a lot there. I would say first, when you're looking around at that market, I would pull up, or you know what, call around and see what rents are for an apartment in that are similar to your style and what would be the best way to say this? And health of your asset, and find out where rents are. And what you're going to want to see is what you're looking at. Are you below rents or above rents? When you're looking at buying something, don't base the numbers on the packet that the broker is going to give you. They're never right. You've got to get the actual rent roll from the broker. That's basically going to come from the owner. You want to figure out like what the actual income coming in is. And you want to see if you've got any opportunity to, increase rents along the way. And so there's that. I would say look for something that needs a little bit of work. Not crazy on your first one. Don't find something you have to like actually do a deep renovation on, but find one that has an ability for you to do a little bit of work and to bring rents up. When it comes to real estate, forced appreciation can make you a lot of money. And then it just comes down to, can you afford the difference if the 3 tenants can't pay your debt service? And then just make sure you're in a position to do so. Live in it for a year, and then look if you can get a tenant in and have your first cash flowing asset. Should we sell our SoCal home after military retirement, maybe 2 years, looking to move to Texas? Indecisive since we bought in 2020, 2.875 rate. I hear you. Amari, this is the question for California homeowners right now. I would say, do you definitely want to leave? And have you spent time in Texas? If you've made up your mind that you want to leave and you haven't spent time in Texas, go stay there for a while. Like, make sure it's what you want first, and then figure out how to figure out the real estate second. Depending on what interest rates do in 2 years, you'll have a little bit better of a shot. I would say if you're holding your house at 2.8 and maybe in 2 years you can get a 30-year for 3.5, that might not be a bad idea. Or even I think 4%, it might make sense for you. And so I would say Give it a little bit of time, let rates normalize, and then make a decision from there. Any other pointers for financial freedom? Yeah, I can give you a lot of pointers on financial freedom. Thank you for the compliment on the sweater. This is an OG Malbin sweater. It's one of my favorites. Okay. Shoot. What were we just talking about? Some pointers on achieving financial freedom. I'll give you all the ones that have really worked for me. So in the beginning, I wasn't making a lot of money, but I was saving. And so I would say first and foremost, you have to learn how to save money, which ultimately just means how to create discipline. You got to create the discipline when you're not making a lot of money so that when you are making money, that discipline carries over. So get used to paying yourself first, which means that every time you get a check, you're going to pull a percentage of that automatically. It's going to go into a separate account. That account is going to be for your savings and investing. So build that discipline. I would say 2, start looking at ways to make more money, right? If you have a skill set, find ways to invest in that skill so you can get better at it, that you can monetize it more, or invest in a new skill that you can go out and earn money off of. That's a very, very valuable one. As far as other things to achieve financial freedom, I think depending on what your career path is, if you're going to be a W-2 employee or an entrepreneur, those are going to be different strategies. If you're a W-2 employee, you're going to want to learn how to play the political game of the corporate structure, right? How do you climb up in your organization? I would spend a lot of time learning how to articulate and communicate a message well. Start building relationships in the organization. One thing that you're probably going to have to get comfortable with if you're not on the sales side, what the data shows is the more frequently you quit a company, the more income you make long term. So if you're with a company and you take that to find another job somewhere else, you now have leverage to get a higher salary. So you're probably going to have to play that game as well, so your total amount earned is greater. If you're taking the corporate approach, I would say right now you have an opportunity where it is easier than ever to outshine. Like if you're looking at work ethic is down. Like there's a lot of people that do not want to show up early. They don't want to stay late. They're not overproducers. If you want to climb right now, go outwork everyone. I'm telling you right now, this is going to be the easiest time to separate yourself from others because you're just not seeing it in the total group. You're seeing a scale back from delivering. And so if you want to climb up, I would say go all in. Be the first one there. Be the last one left. Be the one who's crushing it. Be the one that the boss or your boss cannot afford to lose. And what I would say is be really open with what your intentions are. Just don't do it too soon, right? Like when I have an employee who is telling me what they want to do long-term and how they want to, grow in the organization, that's music to my ears. I want that. And so I would say make that be known what you're looking for. If you're wanting to start a company, that's a different thing, right? Which I would totally recommend. If you're going to start a company though, you really need to spend time learning how to sell and how to market. Even if you're not a sales or marketing guy, if you're going to start something, that is everything. You got to have people know who you are. And so I would take, Toastmaster classes. I would learn how to speak publicly. I would take leadership classes. You're going to have to kind of fine tune your ability to get people on board and direct them forward. As far as like business goes, there's a couple things that you really need to know. It's going to take you a long time till a business is stable and in a position to grow. The first few years are absolutely brutal. So just be mindful of that. You're not going to be sleeping a lot. It's going to be stressful. You're going to be the last one paid, but it's worth it. Now, if you're a salesperson, that is a different type of challenge. You don't have the challenge of income. Like you're making money. You have the challenge of spending. A lot of salespeople spend too much. And so if you're on the sales side, I would say you have to force yourself to invest. You have to force yourself not to spend everything you're making and invest your money. Because what we see a lot of times with salespeople is they live a great lifestyle, they have nothing invested, and they have to work for the rest of their lives, which sucks. Oh, you know what? I had a follow-up question that I missed. I'm sorry about that. Okay, thank you so much for answering my question. I have a follow-up. I haven't visited your channel yet, but I'm curious, do you work with your audience in deals? Like wholesaling, who's a student of Pace, whereas Pace allows his audience to do deals? Yeah, that's a really good question. So the answer is yes. The answer is yes. The hard part about it is I'm very specific on what I'm doing right now. I'm building multifamily in California in a handful of markets. And so I would say most investors right now that are following me are not investing in California, and the size they're doing is a little bit smaller than what we're looking for. And they just happen to not be in the markets I'm investing in. And so the answer is yes. It's just hard to have it fit perfectly. On the storage side, that in some regards is easier because the location is like our properties are all over the nation, but the market study and what we're looking for in a market is pretty tight buy box. And so considering that you have something that lines up, we absolutely would. On the wholesaling side, why it makes more sense for Pace is I think because of the size of his deals. The size of deals that we're doing, it's the wholesaling option is very tough. It's just a different type of investor. So I'm not saying no to it. It's just hard to get to work. What niches in real estate do you feel are underserved right now? TC Dunn, good question. The niches that are undersupplied in real estate right now, I would say, well, let's go through them. Storage is pretty saturated. Industrial, I think, is kind of at a peak point. Office is brutal. Multifamily is dependent on the market. I guess you could make the argument that all asset classes are dependent on the market, but multifamily is in a pretty good spot right now because of the housing crisis. So I probably would go towards housing. Any type of residential is going to be good right now. But finding something that's undersupplied or underserved, I don't know if we have that right now. We might be past that in real estate at the moment. Deanna, are you hiring at Commune? We are hiring at Commune. We are hiring people on the investor relations and sales side of the business, which means helping with the capital raise. And so if that's something you're interested in, I'm going through resumes right now. I just had one offer accepted. So I'm going to be trying to hire 2 more people before the end of the year. If you're interested in that, shoot me a DM and let me know, and I'll show you the place to send your resume. Is pulling a HELOC a good idea to buy an investment property? That's a good question. The answer is it depends. It depends how much equity you have in your home, and it depends if you are comfortable with the risk. Like there's definitely this philosophy, and I actually subscribe to it, which is your home is a home. It's not an investment. And so if your home is not an investment, it's your home, you shouldn't be doing things that make it feel like an investment, like adding leverage to it and building a portfolio off of debt. But if you're like, you know what, I don't care. I've got a lot of equity in this thing. I'm well aware of the risk and I want to do it. Well, then considering that you find a good property to put that money into, then it could be a good idea. Deanna, you are absolutely welcome. What was your initial venture as far as wanting to be financially stable besides skateboarding? Okay, so how I did it, I'll give you guys a very inside look into my path to get here. So I was making money from skateboarding. That was my whole income coming in from 2002 to 2016. That was the main source. And the amount of money I was making was different throughout the years. In the beginning, it wasn't that much money. So in the beginning, when I was making, $20,000 a year, up to $60,000 a year, all I was doing was living significantly below my means. I was putting money in a SEP IRA. I was putting money in a Roth IRA that was being invested in like growth funds, long-term growth funds. And then I had some money that was going into the S&P 500, into a ETF that was post-tax dollars. And that was basically my strategy. It was stocks, bonds, cash with retirement accounts. That was it. And I did that all the way up until the point of me being able to invest in real estate. And the reason being, I had to save money because with real estate, if you're investing in others, I wasn't building out my own real estate portfolio. My whole model was put my attention towards building my brand in skateboarding and then get money invested passively. So I was investing passively. And when you do that, the minimum investment is typically a little bit higher. So I had to save enough to do that. So then I started investing in real estate. I started investing in, I'm trying to think if I invested in any startups before I started my first business, which I don't think I did. No, I don't think I did. So I basically from there, I started a business. In that business, I had some startup cost till we got it to the point of being able to raise money. And then we raised money from investors, and then I started a business, and then we sold the business, and we all made a lot of money. With that, I had somewhat of, my strategy changed over the years where it was heavily stocks and bonds, and then I had some real estate, and then I started moving, further and further outside of the market and more into private real estate, private credit, private equity, venture, tech. And so, and then I was investing in startups. And so that's kind of what my portfolio looks like now. I don't have a lot of money in the market. I have a lot of money in alternative investments and then like business. I do a big portion of my wealth build is done in the creation of companies that I am running. And that's basically how I got here. It's been, how many companies? I've started 9 companies. I've invested in how many startups? Probably about the same, probably 9 startups or so. And then, as far as my real estate holdings, I'm invested in 20-something properties. But what's cool about what I'm doing, I own the company that's managing the properties. Then I also invest passively in the properties as well. So I've got a pretty sizable real estate portion of my portfolio. This is from Caesar. Are you interested in getting involved in retail industry again, since you made a lot of money there? I am not interested in me doing it. I am invested in, so when we sold St. Archer, one of my partners wanted to stay in beverage. And so I invested in his business. So I'm still invested in a handful of alcohol brands through him. And then I'm trying to think if I am invested in any other product-based companies that's not on like the tech side, which I don't think I am. I think that's the only product business I'm invested in. No, that's not true. That's not true. Actually, now that I think of it, I've got a handful of product businesses that I'm invested in, 3 or 4. And then the rest are service-based. Hey, Mikey, I just released a new motocross board game. Only one on the market. How can I market it enough to make it to the masses? Already have product in hand. Thanks. Ringadingdong.shop. I love it. So I would say you got to get on social. The other thing, I would look into paid advertising. As we're talking about businesses, I have a marketing business with my friend Eric Bork. And this is what he does. He runs paid advertising for businesses just like yours. And considering that it is the right product and has the right market, you have the ability to really, really drive revenue up. Like Eric was showing me examples of like a company making, $50,000 to $60,000 a month, and then they bring him on, and the last one I saw, they're making like $1 million a month now. Like it was just like rapid growth. So considering that you have the inventory, you can set this thing up so you can pay for the audience to purchase. And as long as there's enough margin or room in your product, totally makes sense for you to invest the money. And so I would look into that, but I would go organic as well. Like start creating content, telling your story and showing what it is, and get people bought in just from a following standpoint that want you to win. They're going to start purchasing your product. And then maybe like, depending on what it is, can you get any motocross people on board? Right? Like I'm a big believer of compensating people to help. See if there's a profit split, an equity kind of play to bring people in the motocross industry on to help market your business. Real estate is the direction I'm going, but wholesaling is very saturated and a little expensive to get involved. What would you recommend to someone to get involved in real estate besides wholesaling? I would say go get involved with a company like mine. Go find a private equity firm that's investing in real estate where they're allowing investors to come in with them, and go get acquainted with the business and learn how to either find the deals and lock them up and underwrite them and get your lending and be on the op side of it or the acquisition side, or learn how to pitch and raise money. If you learn either of those, you're going to be able to go start a business and you'll be wildly successful. Considering that if you get good at one, you just have to bring a partner in that's good at the other, I would recommend doing that. There's a lot of value, and there's a huge amount of opportunity there. So that's probably what I'd recommend. Go work for somebody doing it. Skip the wholesaling. I would personally skip my outlook has always been this. If you're going to try to get in entry level, you're going to be competing with the most amount of people. And then as you get into the things that most people think isn't possible, you have less competition. And so that's kind of why I say that. Skip wholesaling, skip the stuff that everybody's taking a course to learn, and go work for an equity firm and go learn what the big players are doing. There's a lot of people that aren't even going to go near that. And then that's going to set you up to start your own firm. And you'll have the potential of doing like crazy numbers if you do that. If we would like to invite you to a business or probably get some business advice, how can we reach out? Caesar, just shoot me a DM on here, and then I'll show you how that's done. Or if you can write this down, you can email Tawny, 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 at Commune Capital, COMMUNE, capital.com. And she'll set everything up. How do I get involved with your equity firm? I would love to. Andres, right now I'm hiring on the sales side of the business, on the capital raise side. We are going through applications right now. I'm going through interviews right now. If you want to apply for that, shoot me a DM, and I will send the email for you to put your resume in. Or if you just want to write this down, it's the same email that I just gave out, Tawny, Tawny, at communecapital.com. When starting a business, specifically a clothing brand, what kind of license would you need to get first to continue moving forward? Chris Dotts, are you in America? What I'd recommend, there's a lot of sites that will help you create your entity and get kind of your legal, get you set up on the legal side. You're gonna want to start. Most people don't do this. I always did it. I wanted to get the trademark for what I was doing before I went out and did it. So the trademark one is tough. Like, you can make the argument that No, I would get the trademark every time, actually. I've done it every time. I'm going to tell you, you get the trademark every time. And then depending on how you sell it, you're going to... Actually, what I would recommend is go online, Google how to set up a business or get a business attorney. They are going to walk you through every step and everything you're going to need to file based on the state you're in to get your business up and running. It's not too bad. It's not that expensive, and it's not that hard to do. Mikey is the real deal. Saw you speak in person in 2021. VM Ramos, I appreciate you, my man. I hope all is well. Jay's Minipan, what was your first investment? My first investment, like in anything, my first investment was I think my very first investment was into my SEP IRA and into my Roth IRA. And what I was investing in was... Gosh, I'd have to look back and go see what my very first investment was. Was it like American Growth Fund or I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember what the very first one was. I remember all my first private offerings, but back then, crap, I don't remember. All right. Is the best to just cash buy rental single family homes? Just depends on how rates look. Look, I'm not a big believer in buying real estate in cash. It's just the returns are so low, and like the thing that makes real estate exciting, I think, is the debt side of it. Like you get to stretch your dollar, you get to increase your return, and you get to play a tax game that starts getting pretty fun. You can't do that if you're buying stuff in cash. So for me, I like using debt. Brandon, when's the last time you hung out with Steve Barra? The last time I hung out with Steve Barra was how long ago? I had lunch with him maybe in May was the last time I saw him, right? So what is that, like 5 months ago? June, July, August, September, October, November, 6 months ago. So it's been a while since I've seen him. All right. Okay, words create worlds. I actually missed this question. I'm sorry, my man. You mentioned your lending options are different than Pace Morby. I'm curious what you mean by that. May you please expand on that? And follow-up question, if you're okay with it, may I ask, do you work on deals with your audience? Oh, okay, I'm tracking. The difference in lending options is Pace wants to keep somebody in the deal. He wants to keep them in first position. So when you think of what that means, let's say you own a home and that home's worth $300,000. And maybe you've got, I think what he's looking at, he's trying to find people with like very little equity in the deal. And so, you know, if you've got $275K of debt, that's one thing to have somebody hold that for you in first position. For our projects cost anywhere from $20 to $50 million to build. And we have to build it. So not only do you have to go beyond the purchase price, the cost to build is significantly more than that. So, you know, you have to take out a construction loan or you have to pay for it in cash. And on the commercial side is, on the lending side, is very different than residential. So it just doesn't totally, how did I end up with 3 pens? It's insane. It just doesn't totally line up for what we do. Jezebella, everything is right there except for how you spell Tawny. It is Tawny. Tawny. When your skating career started coming to a close, how did your mental state change? Where did that go? I saw that. Okay, this is from RB. How did my mental state change when my career ended? That's a phenomenal question. It changed a lot. So I would say the first couple of noticeable things were, one, when I was skating, I was married and I had 2 kids, And my ability to manage time and where I stacked them on priorities was very off. Like my skate career was first, and then like they were like a distant second. And then even when I was spending time with them, like I was very bad at spending time the right way. And so that I had to change a lot. I would say that the big thing was when you're like, when I was in the skate industry, I didn't realize what the limitations were to myself based on sponsorships and the industry that I was basically in, right? Like when you have sponsorships, you're very limited in what you can say. You can't do anything that's really going to ruffle feathers, or you run the risk of losing them. And then two, you're in an industry that is hypercritical. Everything's about being cool, and you've got to be mindful that you're not ruffling too many feathers because your income comes from others. I guess the best way to say it would be, imagine owning a business and you being the founder. You can say whatever the hell you want. Nobody's firing you. But if you have a W-2, and maybe think politically, right? If you want to jump out and get political as the founder of a company, you do have to question, is this going to change my consumer base? But there's no one firing you. If you start, talking about politics as a W-2 employee, that's a different story. You can lose a job. And so that's the same as the skate industry. So I would say what I was surprised on, and that I didn't realize, that once I was out of the skate industry and had no sponsors, there was a feeling of freedom that I didn't realize I was lacking for so long that felt really good. And now, like me not being in the skate industry, the cool thing about it, I could watch it, I could follow it, I can have opinions on it, and there is nothing that I can't say that is going to change what I do for my business here. It's in a completely different industry. So it kind of feels cool. Like I was talking to Gary Rogers this morning, and, he was just like, dude, I don't care what people are saying about you. Like, I like it. Like, and look, that's the cool part. Like, it doesn't matter what people are saying about me. Like it doesn't affect what I'm doing, my enjoyment, my ability to make money, my ability to provide for the family. You can have that opinion of me from the skate world, and it doesn't impact me today. That's kind of cool feeling. I didn't have that when I was in the skate industry. And then I would say, some of the other things now, I've been out of the skate industry for 10 years almost, and I've grown a lot in a husband, a father, a person, and a business owner. And so I'm just not the same like caliber person, I don't think, that I was 10 years ago. So a lot's changed, I would say. What is your tone or opinion of the skateboarding industry right now? Do you think it's oversaturated or ripe for the picking? Seems like all these brands we grew up with are slowly dying. That's a good question. I think the skate industry is well, I gotta be careful. As I'm saying, say whatever I want, right? I've got to say this before I say my opinion. I'm not in the skate industry anymore. So this viewpoint may be because I'm out of it and I'm older now, right? So keep that, take this with a grain of salt. The skate industry to me seems very saturated, very boring. Nothing feels special. It just doesn't feel cool anymore. And I don't know if that's because I'm older now. I don't know if it's because it's going through a lull. I don't know if skateboarding is becoming something different to the kids today than it was when I was young, but it's different now, for better or for worse. So look, are skateboarders better than I ever would have thought they would ever be? Yes. Are skateboarders making a lot of money? They're making way less than when I was skating. The deals are lower. The security from sponsors is lower. Everything seems worse for a pro skateboarder. I don't know if there's like new users. Like I'd be interested to find out if the user base is declining. And that's at least for America. I think you can make the example that you start going into like Asia, it's probably the exact opposite. I think skating going to the Olympics was very big for a country like that. Do you think the real estate industry, do you think real estate is the fastest growing economy? No, I don't think so. I don't think it'd be the fastest growing. I would say, I don't know. I don't know what the fastest growing economy would be right now. That's a good question. I would not think it would be real estate. Let's see what the big ones are. What are they? What are the top three? That's not the right thing. Good questions. Anybody know what the largest ones are? I don't know them. Google's just giving me states. All right. Where are we going to graze cattle if you don't quit building houses? Everywhere. Where are we going to graze cattle if you don't quit building houses? Everywhere. Well, one, there's a lot. Well, we have. There is so much land. Land is not the issue right now. I know there's a lot of people that think there's too many people on this earth and there's not enough space. That's entirely wrong. Land is not our problem right now. If you're making the case that we're building too many homes, why? I guess the first qualifying question would be, do you own a home? I'm going to guess yes. And Aaron, land is not the issue, my man. It's not. You could seriously just go look at a satellite view of how much land is untapped. It's unbelievable how much land is untapped. That's not true, man. Two, I'm going to guess and assume that you own a home. Usually you start talking about we're done building homes once you own it, which is great for the investment. But to tell every other generation that they're never going to own a home because we're not building more homes as the generation grows or the population grows, that I don't agree with you there. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't build on farmland. I think having land available for farming, I'm not making the argument that you just get rid of all land and build homes. I'm only making the point that there is so much land available that we can build homes for generations and generations and generations and generations, to pick the X power. We can do that for a long time. The ranching industry is being swallowed up by subdivision. That's a different thing. I'm not. Where I agree with you is it does feel like there's a war put on the farmers. I'm not going to disagree with you there, and I would support you on that one. It feels like a lot of the corporations and, there's a lot of farmland being bought up by groups that I don't want, in charge of managing our food. I'm with you on that. Are there areas, maybe Idaho would be an example of that. Are they getting rid of farmland to build homes? In Idaho, they probably are. So I hear you on that one. But my point is there's a lot of land out there that's not being used as farmland or ag that we could build houses on. So maybe what we're saying is we might be agreeing on the fight in front of us, but I don't think that necessarily is because we've run out of areas to build homes so that we're now having to go into farmland. I could be wrong with this, but it seems like there's a bigger battle going on with farmland. It's who owns the food that we're eating. Thoughts on China buying our land? I don't like it. Ben Stiller, yeah, I don't like it. I think there needs to be some regulation around that one. When investing in real estate, what do you think is the three most important things when doing a tray flip? You know, the interesting part is if you are a personality that can learn how to tray flip, you can do anything. You can definitely start a business. Starting a business is easier than learning how to tray flip. My next door neighbor bought a $7.2 million house in cash. They're from Vietnam and don't even live here. Yeah, like I was playing Pebble Beach. I was golfing in Pebble Beach one time, and there's all of these houses along the golf course. They're huge, huge, huge mansions. And I asked the caddy, like, what's up with these homes? Like, no one's in them. And they kind of just joked, but were serious, Russian oligarchs. So I hear you on that one. There probably needs to be some regulation on that one when it comes to our housing stock. All right, 2:05, gang. I have to get back to it. I got to jump back into the actual day-to-day business. I love you guys. Thank you for spending the hour with me. Have a phenomenal you know what? Actually, I'll let everybody know. I'm going to TC. Thank you. I'm going to Paris tomorrow. I'm going to take my wife to Paris for the week, and so I'm going to put the money content on hold. What do you guys want to see while I'm there? Should I create some content while I'm in France? Anything I need to see while I'm there? Hit me with it before we go. What are we doing in Paris? Jay Minipan, I appreciate you, legend. Hello from Maine. Muke, what's going on, my man? What do I got to do in Paris? Am I putting the phone down? Am I spending the week no phone? Am I filming and editing later? Am I going to be a travel blogger? What should I do? Just enjoy the time. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Enjoy vacation. Enjoy. Thank you, everybody. All right. Crepes under the Eiffel. You know it. You know it. Hit up Ariel. We're gonna do some cool stuff. I'm definitely gonna take photos. I'll post a little bit. I'll hit the best of both worlds. Larry Bonds, you know it, my man. All right, everybody. Love you guys. Have a great rest of the day. I'll see you guys soon.